After bowing out of the full major to the moist roster he was once a part of, a revitalized Vatira went on to prove his doubters wrong in the winter, winning 2 of 3 regionals, the winter major and multiple individual awards. The KC trio brought home the organization's first ever LAN trophy, but what was it specifically about Vatira and his game technically that made him the best player in the world and allowed him to lead KC to a near unstoppable run? Firstly, there was his aerial game. Vatira was easily amongst the elite in this category. His wide array of aerial artillery made him a significant goal threat when he took to the skies. He was a real handful to deal with at times because he was always playing at the limit with really audacious shot attempts. Take this play for example, where he touches it to the backboard away from the pre-jumping defender, while simultaneously acquiring a reset so he can generate enough power on the rebound to find the finish. He operated well in tight spaces too, narrowly slipping past the demo here before slamming on the brakes to set himself up for a perfectly placed double. Vatira was just as dangerous a playmaker on the ground. He was patient and methodical with his approach, pulling defenders out of position to create pockets of space to play into. He was really creative in these positions. A beautiful first touch pops the ball over the first defender, and the burst of speed from the wave dash bolts him back toward the ball for the finish. He liked to play the ball off the sidewall as a way to beat rushing defenders. It looks like he's about to cut in field here, but a last second micro adjustment forces the ball off the right side of his hood and onto the wall. He adds more zip on this one, so the additional height on the ball enables him to go for a reset. He was great at carving holes in opposing defenses when he was playmaking, but Vatira was also great at moving into these spaces to punish his opponents with his shooting. He took advantage of teams that weren't as well coordinated or sharp with their rotations with these long-range attempts, consistently finding the corners of the goal. He preferred a more deliberate approach when he was closer to goal, throwing off Alpha and Radosin with a little feint which opens up the near post finish. He's on the break here after he clears it from the corner and takes a quick glance at the last man to see him flipping back, and because Vatira is so low on boost, he fakes high to buy himself more time before slotting it low into the far corner. Passing was another component to Vatira's offense. He plays it off the backboard for his teammate because he knows the last man's going to panic dive, and he gets Chaussette to bite with a sudden change of pace and direction, and that brief window allows him an extra touch to make the pass across goal. His mechanics unlocked other ways to include his teammates, disguising a sidewall double towards goal to buy Itachi as much time as possible. And the positioning of the defense is what dictates where the ball goes on this play. Mike Boy on the ground is hovering in a more central position in front of goal, which takes Itachi out the play but leaves Exotic open at the far post, and so Vatira plays a ceiling pinch just behind Mike Boy for Exotic to hunt down. He found his teammates in transition too. There's space on the far side of the field here, and the pass is so beautifully weighted that Exotic doesn't even have to break stride. Similarly on this play, he's low on boost but manages to create an opening to make the pass across. Vatira could also offload the ball to his teammates to initiate transition by redirecting the ball to the back wall or corners. But if given enough space and boost, he often chose to solo play from these positions, holding onto the ball here rather than finding his teammate for a much faster attack. Bumps and demos were other ways Vatira diversified his offensive game. He was great at seeking out opportunities to demo opponents and create holes in the team's rotation, particularly when his teammates were on the ball. He frequently looked for last man demos as he rotated out. He lands one onto Dorito here and is able to profit on it before the rest of the G1 roster rotate back. He incorporated air dribble bumps into his game, dropping it off to Itachi as he searched out the challenging defender. But sometimes Vatira liked to do it all himself, combining his mechanical brilliance with bumps to erase Atto and Oski here. Recoveries were another one of Vatira's strong suits. Quick recoveries complemented his rapid and aggressive playstyle really well. Take this play for example, where he power slides initially to keep on the ball, then slows it down and toughs out of 50 so he can recover to the boost and turn around instantaneously to beat Archie. He recovers well again to challenge on the goal line before finally deciding to rotate out and leave it to his teammates to complete the play. Recovering like this helps to conserve momentum and boost, which allowed him to keep on the ball or pressure the ball for longer periods of time. This one is more improvisational. He soars up to the ball, outpacing Catalysm here, and swiftly recovers to the sidewall, creating an angle for an infield pass to his teammate. Even when he got it wrong initially, he could still rescue a play. The first challenge doesn't connect here, but the backflip cancel onto his backboard makes sure he connects the second time. Teams at the highest level are more flexible with their rotations. players cut and stay forward more frequently, and Vatira was arguably one of the best to do this. He liked to play ahead of the ball, providing his teammates with extra options in attack. This next play against Liquid is a perfect example of that. The first attempt to Vatira gets cut out, but the ball falls back for Exotic, and with Vatira giving him an extra option, this puts a Chronic in a difficult position since he's having to worry about a shot far post as well as a pass near post to Vatira. This was almost impossible to defend at times, and Vatira not only scored from these positions but also assisted, darting up the wall to beat Monkey Moon for an accurately placed drop pass. Ramping up play like this created panic and urgency in defenses. Vatira fires it toward the backboard for a double, but the defense hasn't set up yet, so Mike Boy, who's in desperation mode, dives to block a shot only for Vatira to fake it, and that rapid build up means Stowe on the goal line can't react to the shot. As the last man, Vatira's decision making was a little skeptical at times. As the last line of defense, the last man should prioritize low risk plays, and Vatira would commit without giving his teammates time to rotate back. Take this play for example, where he should look to stall for his teammates but chooses instead to take a high risk pre-jump, and since he gave his teammates no time to recover, neither of them are ready to follow up when the ball gets past him. Vatira also loved to play the game at high speeds, but sometimes that came at a price. He'd every so often find himself out of position because of untimely flips. He has more than enough boost to stay grounded and react to the bounce, but he speed flips back, which puts him in an awkward position to make the save. Here's another one, flipping before he has vision of the right side of the field and landing in an awkward position again, meaning he can't contest the first ball, which forces him into making a much harder save off the inside of the post. Vatira's biggest issues were mostly boost related. He preferred to take wide rotations for bigs rather than collect small pads, and he managed to get away with it most times, but not in this next sequence. Vatira gets a decent clear, but pay attention to the amount of boost he burns on the recovery. He has around 60 after making contact with the ball, but eventually lands with 25. He then goes on to take a super wide rotation, and so when he's finally stocked up on boost and ready to involve himself in the play, he's met by a 2v1 with a Chronic hunting him down on the goal line. He doesn't do Exotic any favors here. Rather than picking up pads and challenging early, he makes a dash for the boost, and Rise is able to get a completely uncontested aerial off. He still had an itch for those big boost pads even when he was practically on a full tank. He'd be at 93 after collecting this pad, but when he paths back to challenge the ball, he's down to 43, 50 less than when he had when he was in the same position 2 seconds earlier. Vatira seeking out big pads like this can also affect his teammates. He cuts through the play on this one to collect the corner, taking his teammate out in the process. And he has 20 boost after making his landing here and should maintain position by flipping over small pads. Instead, he darts straight to the corner, and not only does Vatira take himself out the play by hovering around this corner, but he also hurts Itachi, who's rotating back on low boost after challenging and forcing in midfield. Vatira puts all the responsibility on his shoulders when he makes decisions like this, and Itachi is left doing circles on the back wall trying to maintain some speed because he's trying to manage the little boost he has. He also sat on boost too frequently. He puts it in park for a good while here before finally deciding to go pick up pads, and all that time wasted means he's late to the initial ball and then has to settle for an unfavorable 50. Vatira wasn't immune to collecting pads. He's actually quite good at doing so, but only when he really has to. He'll usually just default back to bigs, and that affected not only his gameplay but also his team's gameplay. The rest of Vatira's fundamental game was really solid however. He challenged and 50'd the ball very strongly and manipulated the ball to his teammates. He jumps early here to avoid the bump before laying down the path for the ball towards his teammate. 50s in the corner can be costly if not executed properly, but Vatira was strong in this aspect too. He opts for a quick 50 into the middle here because the defense hasn't rotated back yet. This one's a defensive 50 to initiate an attack, finding his teammate with another intelligent challenge. Another thing to mention are aerial challenges, and Vatira had perfect timing on these, leaping right before Mike Boy's first touch because he knows Mike Boy will be slow to recover once he makes initial contact with the ball. Vatira also liked to hover in the air to cut off options for opposing players. He's covering a Jurius solo play, but once Jurius makes the pass, he transitions to block a shot. Hovering to cut off options like this can be really tricky to execute. It requires precise aerial positioning, and he doesn't really get underneath the ball here to force Oski high, so this sequence turns into a mess with the ball bouncing in front of the goal line. Vatira showed great awareness and anticipation for demos during the winter split. He was wise to even some of the most sly demo attempts. Atto rotates out past Vatira here, and a more traditional rotation would see him path back to the midfield, but he cuts back into Vatira's blind spot for a sneaky demo attempt. With the game tied and 20 seconds left, he makes this clutch play, double jumping to ensure he avoids the demo attempt as the last man and recovers to the inside of the post to deny a potential winner. He had more of these incredible goal line saves, closing the distance and narrowing down the angle with a pre-jump and using his flip to reach and redirect the ball away for the save. It wasn't just pre-jumps but pre-flips also that helped him make these heroic saves, getting there just before the ball fully crossed the line to pinch it off the post. That hunger and desire Vatira demonstrated drove him and Carmine Corp to a historical split. He willingly stepped into the leadership role and showed great resilience and mental fortitude when the road got tough. His high-intensity gameplay made him thoroughly enjoyable to watch, and a well-rounded offensive game on the ground and in the air made him a highly lethal playmaker and solo threat. I'm not sure whether he lacked confidence on low boost or if maybe it was just a bad habit, but his tendency to lean on big pads indirectly hurt his and his team's gameplay at times. Vatira had already established himself as one of the best talents in the game, but his 22-23 winter split performance landed him the title of the world's best player.